If you hold XRP right now, I don't need to tell you that something is off because you feel it every time you look at the chart. The lawsuit ended a while ago. The ETFs went live. Ripple just spent over $1 billion buying massive companies. Everything we waited years for has actually happened, and your portfolio is still deep in the red if you bought last year. And it bounced almost 8% last week, but then it dropped again. If you're watching this movie, it pumps, gives you a little hope, and then it bleeds back down even lower. And lately, the case that Ripple is quietly starting to look away from XRP has been stacking up. People saw Ripple selling its own XRP out of escrow and using that money to buy up other companies. Then they launched their stablecoin, RLUSD, and put most of it on the Ethereum network, not the XRP ledger they'd spent a decade telling us to believe in. And I've seen a lot of people asking, is Ripple slowly abandoning XRP? And in some ways, they're right, because the original thesis that was supposed to make XRP moon is starting to fall apart. But there's a whole other side to this, and it might be the most bullish thing you'll hear about XRP all year long. So I'm going to show you both sides because this is the most important thing to understand about XRP right now. And you come to this channel to hear the truth, not to get hyped up about rumors or myths. I know the conspiracy theories are fun to talk about and entertain, but today we're talking about the facts. If you're feeling bullish, like this video, subscribe to the channel. If you're going to become the first millionaire in your family tree, I want you to confirm it right now by commenting amen below. Also, we've been teaching our top 2026 altcoin trading strategies to long the market and short the market so you can make money regardless of whether there happens to XRP, and also our top DeFi yield generation strategies that the institutions are leveraging that they don't want you to know about through the link in the description below. You can check it out after this one. It's a free briefing that I put together for you. I know you're going to absolutely love it. Let's run it. All right, bull runners, welcome back to the channel. Before I show you a single receipt, there's one thing you have to understand first, because if you miss it, none of the rest of this video will make any sense. If you're following this channel, you already know Ripple the company and XRP the coin are two different things. Ripple Labs is a private company out of San Francisco. It has employees, shareholders, and it makes real money selling software and services, with over 300 financial institutions using or testing its tech right now. So every time Ripple lands another bank, the company gets more valuable and the shareholders get richer. But you're not one of those shareholders. When you bought XRP, you bought a coin that lives on the XRP ledger. You don't get a cut of Ripple's profits, you don't get dividends, and you don't get a vote. That's what actually helped Ripple win the lawsuit because of that. What you actually bought was a bet that people are going to use the network that XRP runs on and the people believe in. And honestly, most XRP holders never made that separation in their head when they invested in the first place. Ripple signs a bank, the headlines go crazy, the news and article companies report it, and everybody feels a little richer. But whenever any of those deals puts money in your pocket, comes down to just one simple question. Did the deal actually use XRP or not? Keep that question in your head because that's exactly what the critics went after. And what they dug up isn't pretty. So let me lay out their whole case, all of it, because it's stronger than most holders want to admit, and I've seen it all. Let me start with the accusations that makes people the angriest and the most triggered and rage baited, which is that Ripple sells XRP to make Ripple more valuable for their acquisitions. When XRP was created at 100 billion tokens, they were minted on day one. Back in 2017, Ripple locked 55 billion of the XRP in escrow, and it can pull out up to $1 billion every single month. So today there's still around 38 billion sitting in that escrow. Where does that money go when Ripple sells a portion? They don't sell all of it. They sell a portion, then they lock the remaining XRP. Well, in April of 2025, Ripple bought the prime broker Hidden Road for $1.25 billion, which was the biggest acquisition in the history of crypto. A couple years before that, it picked up a Swiss custody firm called Medico for $250 million. And now those deals were paid in a mix of cash, stock, and XRP. But close to 90% of Ripple's entire net worth is XRP itself. So even when Ripple pays in cash, that cash was raised by selling a coin that you're holding. Their whole war chest is basically your portfolio. And every single month, they top it back up with more escrow sales. So when somebody in the comments says Ripple built its business by selling the coin that you're holding, they're not just making it up. Selling XRP isn't the only way Ripple brings in cash. They sell software and services too, but those XRP sales built a big part of this machine to even build that software in the first place and to build their company up. So whether that's Ripple stabbing you in the back or Ripple just playing a longer game depends on entirely what those companies that they acquired end up doing for XRP in the long term. So stick with me here because this definitely matters. Take that company that they bought, for example, Hidden Road. It runs today as Ripple Prime and it clears around $3 trillion a year for over 300 institutional clients. But how much of that 3 trillion actually settles in XRP? Basically zero. Ripple owns this massive machine and the token you're holding isn't what flows through it. Now, everything that I've shown you thus far in this video, a diehard defender could still argue with. The last one is very different because on this one, Ripple snitched on itself basically. Because back in late of 2024, Ripple launched its own stablecoin, RLUSD, and they put it on two chains at the same time, Ethereum and the XRP ledger. And without even meaning to, that handed us the perfect test because when Ripple gets to pick where do they actually put the weight, for most of RLUSD's first year and a half, the bulk of it sat on Ethereum. It took until 2 weeks ago in late June for the XRP ledger to finally pass Ethereum for the first time ever at around $801 million. And even that flip mostly came from Ripple burning hundreds of millions of RLUSD off Ethereum, not from new money pouring in. It was just rebalancing off the burn. So Ripple's own stablecoin, the product built to show the world what its own chain can do, spent its first year and a half with most of it sitting on Ethereum's chain. And there's an old saying that fits this perfectly. Ignore what a man tells you and just watch where he puts his own money. You just watch where Ripple put theirs. And then on top of all those numbers, you've got the words straight from Brad Garlinghouse, the CEO of Ripple himself. That's the CEO of the company your coin depends on, standing in front of a room full of institutions, saying he was never a maxi for it and that he holds Bitcoin and Ethereum too. And just a few months before that, David Schwartz, the man who helped build the XRP ledger with his own hands, stepped down after 13 years as Ripple's CTO. He even sold 26 million XRP for Bitcoin a few years ago, like I showed you in one of my last videos. Put all of that together, and it's a strong case. And if you stop this video right here, you probably would want to sell XRP. Now, I'm not telling you to sell XRP in this video, but that's because you haven't seen the other side of the story here. The loudest voice on the other side, who's very controversial, you can like the guy or hate the guy, but we need to discuss what he's been saying. Jake Claver, who runs a family office and has gotten a lot of attention recently for his crazy price predictions. His argument is that Ripple stablecoin isn't XRP losing, it's the doorway. Institutions walk in through the stablecoin, they start using the ledger, and XRP ends up as the bridge sitting under all of it. And this was the same argument that David Schwartz has made over the years. So Jake Claver is not the guy bringing this up. He's repeated what David Schwartz has said, and even I've repeated this in videos over the years. But the more stablecoins the world spins up, the more he thinks a neutral bridge like XRP matters, not less. And so that's the way that it's framed. XRP's job just changed. It stopped being the thing you buy and you sit on. It becomes the fuel that the machine burns up to move money around, bought and sold in 3 to 5 seconds, and then it's gone when it's burned. Now, I think there's something real in how he might see it, but be honest about what it is. It's a bet on a world that doesn't exist yet, because right now, today, the biggest deals aren't using XRP as the bridge. They settle in stablecoins end to end. XRP isn't in the middle. So all these prophecies and these predictions long term could be right, but that's a maybe down the road story, not a today story right now based on verifiable facts. Even the XRP that is burned, it would most likely take a few decades for that to even amount to anything. Then there's the second bull argument, and this one is structural because Ripple holds around 38 billion XRP. So think about, I think it's like 40 billion or something. Think about who on this entire planet has the single biggest reaction to want XRP to go higher than anyone else. It's Ripple. They want the price higher. Why? Because they would make more money when they unlock it from escrow and sell it. And with a Ripple IPO floating out on the horizon, people have been saying that they want their bag to be worth as much as possible before they ever go public. Why would they want it to be worth less? They're the biggest holder. The biggest holder has an incentive to pump their own bag with what they do. So their goal is not to like devalue XRP. That's how they're making their money. And that part's true. With 90% of their net worth in XRP, of course, Ripple want it to go higher. That's common sense. But wanting your coin to moon and being able to make it happen are two completely different things. Ripple can't just flip a switch and pump XRP. The demand has to come from the real market long term, from actual buyers showing up. And Ripple wanting it badly doesn't put those buyers there. Ripple is incentivized to want XRP higher. They're just as incentivized to keep funding themselves by selling it. And so far, the selling has been winning. Now, let me answer the question this whole video is built on. Did Ripple Abandon XRP. That's the title. No, not really. The coin is still wired into Ripple's world. And if that tokenized future actually shows up, which I think it will, XRP has a real seat at the table. But they did stop treating it as the only thing. And whether someone like Jake Claver is right and it becomes like this massive bridge, or the bears are right and it just bleeds out to Bitcoin long term, one thing is true either way. Betting solely on XRP with 100% of your income or your net worth to become the world's full settlement layer, well, that thesis alone doesn't hold up anymore as a really solid strategy because stablecoins are already doing that job. And even if XRP does become what it is set out to be, even just only holding XRP is still not a good strategy because you need contingency plans. You need a diversification strategy. This is what the smartest investors in the world do, and you already know this. You just can't be delusional here, okay? Delusion is not a good long-term strategy. The market has matured over time, and when the market changes, the way you play it has to change as well too. You have to be dynamic. Adaptability and being able to change and shift with a new market is how you stay alive, especially with AI these days. So you need to learn how to adapt your strategy so that way you don't bet everything on just one coin, especially one that's run by a company spending more energy on its own IPO than on making sure the coin that you're holding actually goes up in value. Market cycles and studying market structure and technical analysis and understanding liquidity cycles and where the money is moving is more important right now because everything that hits the XRP ledger doesn't automatically hit XRP's price. We've watched that play out for months now. That's undeniable. That's a fact. The ledger lights up and the coin just sits there or even bleeds to the downside. So no matter which side of this ends up being right, one thing is very true. This is not a coin you can hold with a blindfold on. You have to stay tapped in week after week because the story keeps shifting and the window to actually make money on it is very, very tiny. But here's the major problem that you watch all the way to the end to know about. Staying tapped in on all of this week after week is basically a full-time job. It's a timing issue because you might have a full-time job, you have a family, and everything I just walked you through, none of it lives on the surface. It's buried in the regulatory filings, the deep paperwork that you have to spend hours reading. It takes a whole day sometimes to read just one of these documents because there's too much information and not enough time. And no normal person with a job and a family can track all of that all by themselves. But I get it. I know that it's frustrating. That's not you being bad at this. It's just that nobody ever handed you a system and it's physically impossible to do it alone all by yourself if you also have other responsibilities in the real world. So that's the whole reason that I assembled the brightest minds in crypto to create a private intelligence network. So that way, instead of guessing whether to just hold your XRP long term or sell a portion or sell all of it, you've got people who trade these exact type of cycles who've been doing it for the past decade, helping you decide one-on-one what to keep, what to trim, and when to move based on what they're doing. Now, we're never going to tell you what to do because we don't give financial advice. We're not going to tell you what to buy or sell. We're just going to show you what our research team is buying, what our research team is selling, what they're trading, what they're looking at, what they're analyzing, early altcoin picks, you name it, so that way you can do your own research. So instead of your portfolio just sitting there, bleeding to the downside while the rest of the market runs without you, you learn how to put the crypto that you already own to work for you. So it's actually paying you rent while you wait for the window of opportunity to come back to the market based on liquidity returning for the next bull run. So instead of finding out about move after it's already happened and buying the top again, our research team digs into this stuff before it ever hits YouTube, before it ever hits Twitter or X. So you're already positioned instead of chasing the hype and chasing the pump. And the reason all of this makes sense is the room of the people that you're in, because inside of our intelligence network, you're surrounded by other serious people in whales that are playing the same long-term game as you, who just have a competitive edge. And they'll tell you the truth, even if it stings, okay? And if you don't want to hear it, because facts are the things that you need to know. And a strategy is the thing that you need to develop. Because 6 months from right now, you're one of two types of people. You're either still refreshing the chart, hoping that XRP goes up, or you're holding the same portfolio with a real plan around it, with a portion of it earning yield, a portion of it that you're day trading, a portion of it that you're holding long-term, and a portion that you have on the sidelines ready to accumulate pre-market plays that aren't on centralized exchanges yet, like Coinbase or Binance, that still have low market caps. If you're holding over 50K in crypto and you're done with just holding and hoping, you want an actual strategy, the first link in the description is a free briefing that walks you through exactly how this works. Watch it. If it makes sense, then book a short strategy call with my team. That's completely free. You're going to get more clarity at the end of the call, so that way you can start trusting your decisions again. So you'll know exactly what you're holding that you should trim, what you're holding that you should add to, and how to diversify to stay in the game long term. So click the link below, watch that video. I know you're going to absolutely love it. I will see you on the next one. I will see you at the top. You know what to do. Stay bullish.